I took a sleeping pill, something I had never needed before, and tried to sink into a dreamless void, a temporary oblivion. Sleep finally came, heavy and artificial, but it was a welcome relief. I don't know how long I slept, maybe a few hours. But then, like an evil timer installed deep in my subconscious, I was awakened again. The room was still bathed in harsh artificial light from the lights I had left on. But something is wrong. A terrifyingly familiar feeling is creeping back. The cold. It doesn't come from the hotel's air conditioning system. It seeped through the thick blanket, through the clothes I still wore when I slept, touching my skin like icy fingers. And then my eyes opened. I don't need to look at the clock on my phone next to my bed. I know. Somehow, I know exactly what time it is.
3:33 nachts.
Even here, miles away from my apartment, it still finds me. This phobia is not tied to location. It sticks with me. The hotel room, which had previously looked lifeless with its pale beige wallpaper and cheap furniture, now seemed to be transforming before my eyes. The wall opposite the bed looks like it's rippling. Dark, damp patches began to appear on the surface of the wallpaper, spreading out like blotches of ink, as if the wall was leaking water from the inside. I looked down at my feet in horror. The dull brown carpet at the foot of the bed was now soaked. The water seeped through the carpet, cold and sticky, pressing between my toes as I unconsciously cringed. That scent returned, stronger in the enclosed space of the hotel room. The smell of ancient sea salt, rotting wood, and rusty metal. The smell of the deep ocean, of decay and oblivion. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. The armchair I used to block the main door remained in place, not moving at all. The locks are still firmly fastened. Whatever is here with me, it did not use conventional means to enter. It doesn't need a door. My eyes were drawn towards the bathroom door. Before I went to sleep, I definitely remember leaving it ajar. But now it is closed. And from behind that door, a new sound rang out, blending into the oppressive silence of the room. The sound of dripping water, regular and precise like a ghostly metronome. Tick, tick, tick. The sound was small but echoed in my head like the sound of a hammer. My breath caught in my throat. My lungs suddenly felt heavy, as if they were filled with thick liquid instead of air. The familiar feeling of suffocation came back. The bathroom door handle, a cheap round metal knob, began to turn. Slowly, slowly, without a warning sound. It rotated to the right, then stopped. A small click sounded when the inner door latch was opened. I was completely numb. I can't move. I can't scream. Even forcing myself to blink became unusually difficult. I could only sit there, on the increasingly damp bed, my eyes wide open, staring at the bathroom door that was slowly opening. Steam rose from the slowly widening gap in the door. Not the comforting warmth of a hot bath. It was a cold, thick vapor, carrying the smell of salt and decay stronger than ever. The mist obscured my vision, but through it, I saw it. That silhouette, a little denser, clearer than what I saw through the camera, but still translucent at the edges, as if it were struggling to maintain its physical form in our world. It stood in the bathroom doorway, water continuously pouring from its old navy uniform. Water flowed from the worn sleeves, from the high collar, from what should have been the matted hair on his head. The water formed a large puddle that was spreading across the bathroom floor and began to spill onto the carpet outside. It was still clutching the rectangular box to its chest. Under the yellow light of the hotel, I could see the details on the box more clearly. As I guessed, it was an ancient music box, carved extremely delicately. But the carved images are not of peaceful countryside scenes or playful angels. It was haunting maritime scenes. Ships fighting fierce storms, mermaids with blank eyes dragging sailors into the abyss, and strange sea creatures, part fish, part monster, that I couldn't recognize. The bronze details used to hold the pieces of wood together have dulled green from time and salt water. A small key, also made of bronze, protruded from one side of the box. The figure took a step towards me, exiting the bathroom. Another wave of water rushed out, flooding around his heavy, wet boots. Language crash, slap, It rang again, closer, clearer. It stopped a few feet from the foot of the bed. Then, with a slow, almost ceremonial movement, he held the box forward in his pale, ashy, swollen hands. Hands with nails black from rot. My voice finally escaped, but it was only a hoarse whisper, trembling with terror. What do you want?" I stammered. Why me?" The figure did not react. It has no mouth to speak, no eyes to express emotions. It just kept holding the box out as an offer, or perhaps a request. A wordless request, but carrying the weight of a century submerged at the bottom of the sea. It goes one step further. Crash, slap. I instinctively backed away, crawling on the damp mattress until my back touched the hard wooden headboard. There was nowhere to retreat anymore. I was cornered, both physically and mentally. The figure stopped at the foot of the bed. With deliberate slowness, he carefully placed the music box on top of the mattress. Then, it gently pushed the box towards me, sliding on the wet bed sheet. I could feel the coldness of the box even before touching it. A bitter cold was spreading from the box's location, seeping through the blanket, touching my legs, making them numb. A strange pull, an inexplicable urge, forced me to reach out, not out of curiosity, but more like a deeper command, an internal compulsion, as if refusing would bring far worse consequences than obeying. My trembling fingers touched the cold metal of the box. A light jolt of electricity ran down my arm, causing my whole body to shiver. The box was much heavier than its size, and its surface was rough, covered with what looked like crystallized salt and barnacles that had hardened from decades on the seabed. The small brass key on the side of the box turned with surprising ease under my fingers. Almost no effort required. As soon as I turned it all the way around, the lid of the box automatically opened. Inside is not silk or jewels. It was a complex mechanism consisting of tarnished bronze gears, small metal rods, and a rotating cylinder. On top of the rotating pillar is a tiny statue, a sailor, wearing the same military uniform as my uninvited guest, with a solemn posture, as if he were patrolling the ship's deck. And then the music started playing, a slow, sad, haunting melody. The notes resounding from the old box sounded strangely clear in the quiet room. I recognized this tune. Somehow I know it, even though I'm sure I've never heard it before in this life. Those notes tap into some hidden corner deep in my memory, something buried under decades of mundane existence, under numbers and balance sheets. Images began to flash in my mind, overlapping each other, fast and furious. A bustling port town with tall sailing ships that I have never visited. A particular ship with white sails billowing in the wind, then tattered and torn in the middle of a terrible storm. A cramped captain's room, filled with old maps, bronze navigational instruments, and a large compass. The image of a rebellion, angry and desperate faces in the flickering storm lights. The image of a captain, a man with a proud and uncompromising face, being locked in a room by his own crew while the ship was sinking in a storm. A cargo hold filled with heavy wooden crates, treasure that should have been used to pay the crew after a long trip, is now submerged by salty sea water. And finally, a curse was uttered with a dying breath, a vow of vengeance that echoed through the roar of the waves and the crunch of the ship breaking apart. The small sailor statue on the rotating column of the music box slowly rotates to the music. Its tiny face, initially just crude carvings, seems to become more detailed with each rotation. The eyes, the bridge of the nose, the square chin, until, with a chill running down my spine, I recognize that face. That's not the face of anyone I know in this life. It's the face of a person I used to be. In another life, another era, I am that proud and greedy captain. The music suddenly stopped, leaving behind a heavier silence. The ghostly figure standing at the foot of my bed wavered violently. The shape became clearer momentarily, and for the first time I could see its face. Or rather, what's left of a face after a century of erosion under the pressure of the ocean. The eye sockets were empty but seemed to stare straight at me. The skin is pale and swollen because it is soaked with water. And an unmistakable expression, a combination of endless suffering and cold judgment. Recognition hit me like a physical punch. That's him, my first mate, the loyal man who trusted me, whom I cruelly betrayed, the one I locked in the hold with everyone else when the ship began to sink, just to protect the now useless gold scattered on the bottom of the Atlantic. His soul crossed time and space to find me. The ghost of the first mate raised a wet, swollen hand, pointed at me. Then he pointed to the music box lying on the bed, between us. And suddenly, I understood everything, with a terrifying clarity and inevitability. This is no ordinary haunting. This is not an idle curse. This is a calculation, an unpaid debt. A balance needs to be reestablished in the cosmic ledger. I had left the hotel just as dawn was breaking, leaving the room wet and cold. But I know that geographical distance no longer means anything. My guest has found me across the centuries. It will definitely find me no matter how far I run. I returned to my apartment 703, pulled back by the same invisible, unshakable force that had connected us in the first place. The apartment was still the same, eerily quiet in the daylight. The security cameras are still in the same position, lifeless electronic eyes. But I don't need them to confirm anything anymore. I knew the truth, and I know what I have to do. That night, I didn't try to fight sleep. I didn't lock the bedroom door, nor did I block the chair against the doorknob. I don't leave the lights on. Instead, I did something else. The music box had, somehow inexplicably, reappeared on my bedroom nightstand, even though I was sure I had left it at the hotel. I placed it there neatly, the lid closed. I took a shower and changed into clean pajamas, but not the nicest clothes like people usually wear when preparing for death. I don't think I'm going to die, but I know my old life is over. I lay down on my bed at midnight, my arms folded across my chest, like someone ready to accept my fate. I closed my eyes, but didn't sleep. I wait. At exactly 3:33 a.m., I opened my eyes. He was standing there right at the foot of the bed. But this time, something is different. He is no longer dripping. The navy uniform looked clean, almost new, as if before the fateful storm struck. And his face. It was no longer a face swollen and disfigured by seawater. It was the face I remembered from the images flashing from the music box. A rather young, handsome face, with straight and serious eyes. He looked at me, not with hate or anger, but with a solemn, almost sad judgment. He pointed again to the music box on the nightstand. I nodded slowly. I finally understand. I have a debt to pay. Not with my life now, but with the rest of it. The music box's haunting melody doesn't just stir up memories. It also contains a code. The coordinates lead to the location of the shipwreck, the final resting place of the 27 honest people I sent to death. The place containing a treasure now has no meaning compared to the lives that paid for it. They deserve to be found. Their remains, or at least their ship, deserve to be returned or marked. Their family, no matter how many generations have passed, deserves to know the truth. Those sailors deserve to be remembered as human beings, not just as an accounting error in the ledgers of a long-gone bankrupt shipping company. As I reached towards the music box, preparing to open it again to listen and record the melody, the code, my guest, my first mate, smiled. A weak, fleeting smile, but containing a terrible understanding and a certain liberation. We have started a new journey, a journey that would consume the rest of my lonely, ordered life. I'll have to learn how to decipher that melody. I will have to study oceanography, ocean currents, and maritime history. I will have to spend all my savings, sell this apartment, and give up my stable job. I would become a haunted man, a man chasing a ghost and a ghost ship. People who once respected me would probably call me crazy. Perhaps they are right, but I will find them. I will find that ship. That's the only way to repay debt from past lives. The only way the soul of this mate and others can pass on. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only way I can sleep a full night again. I carefully turned the small brass key. The lid of the box opened.